Hi, and welcome to a new episode of Southeast of Normal. I'm Osman, and I'm here with Yahya from Pattern Labs. We are going to be touching on vibe coding, and as you saw from the intro screen, it was created by Gemini. But yeah, let's not dwell too much on that. And Yahya, I've known you for quite some time now. You've been one of the founders that joined Accelerating Asia on one of our earlier cohorts. Introduce us to what you're doing at Pattern Labs now, and we'll explore what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and great to do this. So quick intro about myself. I'm the co-founder of Pattern Labs. We work with founders and businesses to help turn their real-world expertise into technology products that customers can use across the world, and the products that customers can actually trust, and founders can, build reliably.
I know that when you first started out with Pattern Labs, your founder journey was around loyalty and loyalty cards in Pakistan. You've kind of expanded that into building out apps for customers in the Middle East. So walk me through that particular journey and then how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we started the company 4 years ago, and we started with a very specific problem that we saw restaurants around us were facing, and the ethos and idea has always been to keep looking at different problems and find solutions which are scalable through technology and build on top of it. A lot of it happened naturally as well. So we built a few tools to help restaurants build loyalty for their offline, or you could say phygital spaces, and that was the start of it. And then it let us, there were a lot of complementary industries as well. So we started building solutions for restaurants. We started getting demand from it from other parts of the world, including Middle East, and Africa. Since the very beginning, the idea has always been to work very, very closely with our customers, and then that basically leads us to find com- adjacencies and different problems that people are looking solutions for. And the idea is to always keep iterating and keep evolving into building solutions which solve a lot of painful problems and are scalable on their own, so that the team can actually expand on more problems to solve. So with that, the restaurant space is directly related to food delivery, which naturally allowed us to have a lot of exposure in the logistics space. And then the food and beverage industry is also linked with a lot of healthcare related. There's a segment to healthcare because we were doing software products for a lot of meal plan subscription companies, which were focused on nutrition and then health coaching. That's how we entered into that space. And then today we work across multiple industries across the world, including the US, Middle East, Africa, Canada, Australia, and beyond, across fintech, edtech, logistics, connectivity solutions, telecom, and a lot more industry. And then we basically realized that the more problems we solve, actually, in technology, the industry often um, is a bit overestimated. And what I mean by that is that a lot of the architectural and the product related solutions that you build for one industry are very, very replicable across different industries, following a specific framework. But we can definitely dive deeper into that. But yeah, that's where we are.
All right, okay. And how did you first expand into the Middle East? What drove you in that direction?
I think it was always, whenever we found, whenever any client or customer came to us with a problem, our natural next step used to be to always test global demand.
Yeah.
So if someone came to us with a problem, our natural next step would be to see, hey, are there any other people in the world who need who have the same problem that we can
Yeah.
solve? And then that's how we, stumbled upon Middle East as well, because we saw that the F&B ecosystem was growing pretty fast over there, and then a lot of people over there had similar problems to solve.
Yeah.
So that's how that happened.
Yeah, no, and I've heard this a lot from Pakistani founders that they treat the Pakistani market as like a proving ground, work things out. Obviously it's lower cost of both in terms of development and customer acquisition, but then yeah, let's grow outside of Pakistan, because the other issue with Pakistani founders is that their revenue, if it's generated in rupees, it doesn't. When it's devaluing, you're barely treading water. If even if you are growing, when it comes to converting that to US dollar currency, so foreign earnings is usually like the other key to unlocking growth for many Pakistani founders. So I think this is exactly what you've been doing, and it's been pretty impressive. There are a number of different industry verticals now that you're working with. What examples have you come across that really stand out?
Sure. I think it's very important. I think you touched upon a good point about the proving ground in global businesses built out of teams residing in Pakistan. I think it's also a win-win situation, right? So for any business to succeed, I think the core fundamental is that it has to be creating a lot of value for someone who's paying, right? So global businesses, so they face like two challenges across all industries. Let's say let's start with like a domain led founder, so someone who has been in the healthcare space, for example, with deep expertise in the domain, let's say 10 to 15 years, and then they want to build a product now. They've seen a gap in the market, they see a problem that they want to solve. Now they want to launch a product in that space. They'll probably have to hire 10 different experts across 10 different domains to actually get off the ground. And then there's a chicken and egg problem. First, there's the capital problem. If you're early on, it's difficult to get 10 highly experienced domain experts who know and who can consult and advise that particular domain expert in actually launching a technology product off the ground, having either enterprise customers use it or like consumers use it, so on and so forth. So it becomes a natural win-win scenario for them to actually partner up with a company in an emerging market like ourselves or in
Yeah,
Pakistan, where they could get access to all those 10 domain experts without having them on their fixed payroll, because then those 10 highly experienced domain experts, it's going to be a big challenge to actually convince them to actually leave their existing roles and join an early stage company
yeah,
when the early stage company needs it the most. So that's the real gap that countries like Pakistan, because of the good talent and because of this flexibility advantage, are able to fulfill. So that's the win-win, which is and which is why like it's a technology services in this country is an extremely fast-growing industry, and companies across the world have been trusting this market to actually deliver solutions and act as an extended innovation arm of like really really fast-growing companies globally. So that's that. And you mentioned about different industries that we work in. So we've been fortunate to work with many expert founders and companies um, across all sectors, like I mentioned, technology space, in the healthcare technology space, in the financial technology space, in connectivity solution space. In fact, we've been a part of launching Starlink officially for enterprises in the Middle East and North Africa region. So we've built that product from scratch, and we're still building on top of it. So that's been very interesting as well.
Oh wow! The other interesting thing, I looked at your website. You've got apps that you've developed which are HIPAA compliant. You've got apps that are actually telecom compliant because they're at a level of robustness where 5 nines compliance is usually the requirement. So I mean, in terms of robustness, I mean it's a testament actually that you've got some of these clients in those industries because HIPAA compliance is super hard, and delivering applications into the telecom environment is often just fraught with difficulty in terms of being able to deliver not just the product but making sure it's so robust and so reliable that it doesn't fail when you need it the most. With what are you seeing in the market today in terms of like the actual demand that you're getting?
Yes, absolutely. So I think the one particular demand that we've seen skyrocket is, I think it's a really interesting time to be building, because there used to be so much unnecessary stuff that used to occupy, that was basically like a barrier to entry for expert founders who really wanted to uh, build something. But there was so much admin and non-productive work that needed to be done um, to actually get off the ground. A lot of that has been removed. So now what happens is, so we come in the founder's journey usually where, so a lot of founders, a lot of companies are thinking, very close to a particular industry. And then they see, like I mentioned, healthcare founders, for example, or somebody in the logistics industry is seeing a serious problem that they want to build a solution for. So what they would do is they would use AI coding tools to actually build that solution out, test the initial demand. It does a great job with prototyping. And now what's happening is that there's actual paying customers. It could probably and be like one enterprise customer willing to pay. It could be like a bunch of SME customers which are willing to pay. And now the challenge that those domain expert founders face is that the behind the scenes, the infrastructure, the security requirements, the architecture, the product roadmap looks very different for if your first customers are a bunch of SME customers, or if your first customers are direct consumers, or if your first customer is one enterprise. It also differs and varies significantly depending upon the industry that you're in. How regulated is the industry that you're building the product in? Or how regulated is the industry that some of your partners are operating in, right? So that's the piece where a lot of founders then struggle with, and that's when they come to us. And then what we do is we help them actually define the roadmap in the direction which aligns with their business goals as well, and then curate a specialized um, team for their particular use case, and then also try to plan it out, you know, into plan it out with them into phases, about, let's say, what would they need to actually happen in phase one. And then once they cross that threshold, and then the threshold means it could be usage, it could be revenue, it could be a lot of other things. And then when that threshold crosses, how do the requirements change? And then when they get into phase two, do we have a plan arranged as well for them to actually not come run into like roadblocks when they enter phase two? So that's essentially the value that we create.
Yeah, this whole thing about vibe coding as well, it's becoming a big issue because There's a lot more people doing vibe coding now, creating the app, and thinking, well, don't need to outsource this to anybody. I've just done it. Um, I mean, what are the challenges that you're seeing, and the problem statements that you're beginning to address?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I think it's actually true. So because anyone who's building a company and building a product which is basically going to facilitate any sort of business, they know when they need someone, and they also know when they don't need someone. So
Yeah,
mostly, if they're feeling that everything's working fine and they don't need anyone, that's great. What we usually see is that when they actually run into roadblocks, that is a time where it becomes tricky in the sense that if they don't come to take help from the right experts, and that's when a lot of energy gets wasted. That's when a lot of cost gets wasted as well, because it's very easy to get stuck in a vicious cycle of not being able to fix it, but um, also losing energy and also losing like important customers. So I think
yeah,
that's the time when you know expert help always comes in handy, and there's plenty of that expert help available. So it's good that, and we see a lot of founders actually do that whenever they run into roadblocks. They reach out to domain experts in the product and technology development space, and then they're
yeah.
able to have a solution to that very very quickly without losing on capital, time, and energy.
Okay. I mean, tell me, how does that work? I mean, do they come to you with, "Hey, I've vibe coded something and it's working, and I just need you to make it more robust," or do they come to you when the platform is literally burning? There's a fire and they're trying to put it out, and you've got to fix it.
The most common one is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
So the most common request we get is, "Hey, we really spent a lot of time building this. Our customers really like it. Sometimes, like 5 out of 10 times or 4 out of 10 times, something glitches and something wrong happens, and
Hmm.
we're trying to figure out what's wrong, but we're
Yeah.
unable to fix it, and we're unable to pinpoint and identify what's wrong." So the first thing that we start with is, like, you could call it a human vetted production readiness review, right?
Mm.
And then that's like a detailed report where what we do is we get like read only access to the code base after, of course, the paperwork of an NDA and stuff. But then what we do is our team of experts reviews it from different standpoints, like from an infrastructure angle, from an architecture angle, from a security standpoint, from a code cleanliness standpoint, and also from a standpoint of seeing that whatever has been built, does it align with what the business is trying to achieve? And
Yeah.
then once we have those findings, we share those detailed report findings with those founders. And then the next step is that, hey, here's the top 10 things that we've identified which are causing the problems that you were facing. And here's another 5 things which are causing some problems or which might cause some problems in the next few months, which you didn't tell us about, but this is for you to actually review.
Yeah.
And then now it's up to you. Do you want to fix it yourself, or do you want us to help you fix, have, the right expertise fix it for you? And
Yeah.
then that's the second part.
Okay.
So, and then it could go both ways. Sometimes, the founders would say, "Hey, okay, thanks for sharing this. This is useful. We're going to fix it ourselves. This is minor." Sometimes they're like, "Hey, can you help us fix this?" And then after we fix this, sometimes they say, "Hey, there's a lot more roadmap to be developed. So we want to brainstorm on the roadmap. We want to brainstorm on things like the user experience. So there's a user experience audit, there's a code audit, there's a product roadmap audit, and all of that is basically just deciding that all of the things are good to do, but depends on what your particular business and what your particular budget and what your particular market and what your particular industry needs. So we then basically piece it together in a way that answers to all of those questions.
Okay.
And then that's how we do it. And then the last thing is basically when sometimes founders say, "Hey, my roadmap is at a place where I want to cross a certain revenue threshold, but until I do that, what I need is I need like dedicated support for 30 hours a month, and if something goes wrong, I need like reserved capacity for 30 hours where we'll guarantee them that if something breaks on, like, let's say the server side, if there's a DevOps issue, if there's a, you know, um, integration issue, if there's anything that's not supposed to happen, if it's happening, then we align on a service level agreement where we're going to come in and fix it through that reserved capacity, and then
Okay.
they're never going to have to worry about it.
Okay.
So,
I
regardless,
mean, so my question's really going to be like every month, if not more often, we're hearing an update from OpenAI or from Claude, Anthropic, those guys saying, "Oh, my next model has come out and it's just amazing. It's going to like completely do whatever you want it to do." And so there's a lot of people who are going to say, "Well, Fable can do that now. It can do the code audit. It can work out where the bugs are and identify gaps." So what's the problem here? Where do you sit within that, where you've got the challenges of newer, more advanced AI models coming to the market so quickly?
absolutely. I think there's a slight nuance here, and I'll try to explain it with an example.
Yeah,
So let's say there's the latest model of all of these great companies that has come out.
yeah,
Now, I'm not a doctor, and I'm certainly not a brain surgeon or a neurosurgeon. So if someone's a great neurosurgeon and they're using one of these latest models to help improve their performance in any aspect, preparing for a surgery and planning out a very complex surgery, they're going to be able to do it a lot better than I would, even though we're using the same model. I wouldn't know. I can't perform a brain surgery, right? Because I'm
yeah,
not that expert. Even if I have the access to the latest model, right? I wouldn't know what weightage, like what exactly am I going to ask for it, right? Even if I start giving generic prompts, it's tricky for me because what's the nuance? What is the business that I'm trying to build? What is the market? What are the customers saying? What are the fundamental building blocks that I want in the product? If I don't, so these AI tools are only going to be do what you tell them to do, and knowing what to tell that model is something that needs a lot of experience and a lot of expertise. So I hope that that parallel is making sense.
I kind of get where you're coming from, but there's going to be a lot of people who say, yeah, but the latest model is very proactive. It can really just go in and correct things without you having to prompt it. My personal experience is not, right? That you can mention something, it will still hallucinate, it will still do things which, or not do things. It will just go, yeah, you've got a problem. And then you go, well, can you fix it? And then it will start doing something completely different, or
Yeah.
fixing a problem that it thinks is the issue, but not what you're seeing, So I've seen those things even with the latest models, and I don't know, there seems to be a massive reliance on being able to rely on those types of newer models to just run magic, but it's not the reality in my experience anyway.
No, no, I agree with you. And also, like, the short answer to what you asked earlier is that
Mm.
it's actually great. if someone is basically arguing and saying, hey, no, this latest model has resolved, everything that was, not working, I
Yeah.
think the answer to that is it's great. Congratulations, someone has managed to actually do that, which is great.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of people who aren't, people would only come to get external expertise if they're unable to, fix something.
Yeah.
So if it was getting fixed, then we wouldn't be having that conversation about what the problems are. And mostly it's not. The conversations are also mostly not about this is one part that something's not working. There's a whole different conversation about, hey, what should I build next? What should I not build? Because there's an AI would not assume that you have a limited budget.
Mm.
And a lot of the constraints that companies and founders naturally have, which they probably haven't communicated clearly to to the model. So unless the model knows what the real constraints are, or what
Yeah.
the specific constraints are, it's not going to be able to serve those needs. And that's why, like, uh, these things exist.
Okay. I mean, and so where do you see Pattern going now in terms of what are the next steps in terms of clients that you've acquired, what that revenue looks like, and where you see your next milestones?
Yeah, I think honestly, like the milestones that we keep focusing on one day at a time is you know uh, with each subsequent client, our network becomes stronger. Our internal learnings become stronger. We're able to solve more problems more effectively, more efficiently. So we want to reduce the time it takes for us to solve, you know, specific problems which are very recurring, and we want to keep, obviously expanding the network of more people that we can solve with. We're doing interesting things. We're partnering up with a lot of early stage venture capital firms. We're partnering up with a lot of AI coding workshops. So a lot of the places where people are asking these questions about, hey, I'm facing the following 10 challenges. Can you introduce me to someone who I can speak with and
Yeah.
just have a discussion about how to actually solve it? Sometimes the solutions are super quick. It's like sometimes things will get solved within like 5 to 7 days, and people are on their own, and then they're able to achieve a lot of the milestones that were previously getting blocked. So I think we're really excited about this space, and we're absolutely always trying to speak with more people, understand more problems, and you know bring about more solutions.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the thing that a lot of founders find is that they're comfortable with a vibe coded product, but as soon as it's in front of a customer, their biggest issue is not like the product is there. It's like, what if something goes wrong? How quickly can I fix it? And do I have the expertise to actually literally sift through this code or ask the right question to get that fixed? Um, and that becomes a real problem, and it'll keep you awake at night. And the solution that you're providing here is the ability for a founder or for a domain expert to actually sleep well at night when their product is out in production and it's actually gone live and it's generating revenue. A founder knows that you only need to mess up once and that's it. You've lost your customer, you've lost the loyalty, you won't get them back, or it's going to be really hard to get them back. So it's having that robustness. Now, my next question is really, before we wrap up, is, I'm approached every day by people from India and Vietnam and Cambodia, and they're all saying the same thing. Hey, we can help you build your product. We can provide resources. I mean, what's your like rebuttal for that in terms of what they're trying to offer and what's the differentiation here?
That's an interesting question. So to be honest, like we've helped large enterprises, uh, you know, doing like hundreds of millions of dollars to smaller companies who are pre-revenue and then who are doing like a couple of $1,000 a month. So there's a wide range of companies that we've worked with. And the idea is only that we just start with a non-transactional conversation with a founder, just try to understand the problem that they're facing.
Yeah,
And we wouldn't say like, hey, we can fix your problem. We'll probably just have a 30-minute call or like a coffee chat to sort of
yeah,
understand what the problem is. Sometimes it just clicks. If there's something that we believe we're very well equipped to solve, we're going to probably just offer to do that. Otherwise, what we'll maybe we can think of some other experts who are more relevant for them to actually talk to. So in that case, we'll probably just recommend them to the more relevant expert who can actually solve it. I think it generally grows organically. Even those every company that you think you get approached by, at the end of the day, it boils down to trust. So if I reach out to someone who I don't know and I say, "Hey, can you introduce me to a bunch of founders because I've done XYZ for other companies,"
yeah,
they're only going to do that in two cases, where A, they either trust some of the customers that we've worked with, even
yeah,
if they don't know like myself or my co-founder personally or like our team personally, then they're either going to trust the companies that we work for, or they heard from someone that, hey, these guys are reliable, and they're going to give you like a good solution to whatever problem you're facing.
yeah.
So end of the day, I think the more trust we can build across the world, uh, the more confident people are going to be to actually rely on us.
Yeah.
So I think it's all about building the right trust with the right network.
For me, the issues that I'm beginning to see, especially for the founders that don't quite make it through the Accelerating Asia filter
Mm.
for the cohorts, is that they're still at that ideation stage, or they have an MVP, it's been created, they've been able to validate something, but the next question is, how do I take this to something that really is fit for purpose, both from a UI and UX perspective? Because there's something that looks pretty, and then there's something that's functional, but you usually want something that is practical and functional more than anything else. And sometimes that little nuance isn't there, and then from that you might have both the friction at the client level, and then you've got also the friction in the back end where it just doesn't scale when you go beyond 5 users, which is typically the thing. It worked for me and worked for my friends, but now I've got like 500 people trying to log in at the same time. How do I
Yeah.
do? And they're the types of questions which I'm getting. Can you look at this, and can you look at my deck? And the deck is great, but the real proof is whether you've actually got the ability to scale up beyond just your initial MVP. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one interesting conversation that I was having with one of the accelerating Asia founders as well recently is that, so the problem statement that said we see as well
Yeah.
is the founders are going to have like a very ambitious plan. They probably have some paying customers aligned as well based on their prototype. And now the challenge is, the first thing that intuitively comes to people's mind is, hey, maybe I want to hire a CTO. And the problem with that is finding the right CTO. Firstly, you want to raise enough capital to be able to attract an experienced CTO who can actually deliver on that solution. So it takes time, it takes more capital, and when it's hard. Even if you actually end up finding the right CTO who wants to join you, And then when they start talking about the details, the CTO would then expect, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do all of this on my own. I'll probably need one expert for the infrastructure and the security side, and then I would need someone to write, or spec, like from an engineering standpoint. Then I would probably need a product manager to look into it as well. If the CTO has worked for like a large enterprises, there's a certain way that they work, right?
Yeah.
And there has to be a good enough reason for them to actually join the company, and then that reason is often because of the real world realities,
Yeah.
that reason is often like that requires a lot of capital, and then the plan that they come with requires even further capital, and then it becomes another problem, like, okay, what if you actually somehow, even if it costs an arm and a leg, and you somehow manage to squeeze that budget in, and you actually do it for like 3 or 4 months, and your runway is running out? What do you do then? And
Yeah.
what if the product is not, doing what it's supposed to, right? What do you do if if you go towards something like a downsizing event that has a deep cultural impact, that has a deep impact on a lot of different things? In that scenario, if you get external help, it's a lot more KPI driven, because if you get an external partner to do something, you define the acceptance criteria, and you're only going to pay the technology partner when they actually deliver on that solution, and then you
Yeah.
can just plug out when you don't want to. You don't have to have people on the payroll. Let's say in a successful case, that like 5 or 6 people team with a senior CTO that you assemble actually delivers, and then something happens in the market where you're not able to monetize enough. You are able to monetize, but you're not able to monetize to afford the payroll of like 7 senior experts on your team for the next 24 months. Then what do? You can't downsize for 5 difficult months and then rehire again. It doesn't work
Yeah.
like that. So I
Yeah.
think that's one key area where they end up spending a lot more, and not just capital. Like, it becomes very difficult to actually build that reputation, attract more talent again after getting stuck with something like that, and
Yeah.
that takes founders focus away from where the focus should be. So I
Yeah.
think that those are the situations where it's always good to reach out to external flexible technology support partners.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting point that you made. I mean, yeah, the initial reaction is we're going to hire a CTO. I've seen this happen where you look at the pitch deck and it's like, I've got a CTO who was like head of engineering at Google, and it's the wrong profile because, yeah, just because Google started out as a startup doesn't mean they are a startup now, and they have a different mindset. They have different resources that they're used to having. And a CTO of a startup usually is a person who literally can try his hand at everything and then only loop in the people that need to be brought in. And they have the mindset of like, let's try and fix the problem, and they understand the concept of a runway, that in an ideal world it would take me 6 months to do, but I only have 2 months of runway. What do we need to do? And they'll fix that problem, they'll solve it and work with it. And sometimes that can be the barrier as well between a company succeeding and failing. If you've got a CTO who's got a very different mindset in terms of what they need from a robustness perspective, and is detached from reality of where that company is able to deliver. So yeah, using an external resource, because you're a startup yourself, you've felt this pain of like having a few months of runway, and you know what needs to be delivered quickly to actually sustain the company and get it moving.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of people forget that if you've got the right mindset, you can achieve a lot, and that's your background, your secret skill that you typically don't need to share with people, but you understand inherently the problem that they've got. That they've got runway, they've got burn issues, and on top of that, they need to ship product, and you're able to do that.
I'm interested to see more thoughts in the comment section as well, and then I think we we could do another conversation about the questions that we get asked the most.
Yeah. All right, cool. So anyway, thanks, Yahya. It's been informative. It's great to know what you're building at Pattern Labs. If there are any questions about the Pakistan ecosystem, what's going on in the region, what the current problems are with founders across the MENA and South Asia region, just reach out to either myself or to Yahya. Thank you.
Thank you.